Welcome, dear brothers and sisters, to our channel. Today we want to reflect on a powerful moment from the Gospel, when Christ drove the merchants out of the Jerusalem temple, saying, "My house shall be called a house of prayer, but you have made it a den of thieves." What exactly was happening in the temple at that time? And why was Jesus so outraged? First, let's understand where exactly the trade was taking place. The Temple of Jerusalem in the Old Testament was architecturally different from modern churches. The trading wasn't happening outside on the street. It was inside the sacred grounds, in what was called the Court of the Gentiles. This was the part of the temple where even non-Jews, those who sincerely sought the God of Israel, could pray. So this wasn't just a courtyard but part of the temple itself. And right there, where prayer was meant to rise up, where souls were seeking God, there were money changers' tables, cages with doves and pens for lambs and calves. The place meant for psalms was filled with shouting, bartering, the clink of coins, and the stench of animals. In such an atmosphere, true prayer became impossible. Secondly, the temple had a system of forced trade. This wasn't voluntary giving like we have today. It was a mandatory form of buying. To offer a sacrifice, you had to buy an approved animal from the temple. You couldn't just walk into the temple to pray. Everyone had to bring a sacrifice. A lamb, doves, flour, or something else according to the law. Even the poorest were not exempt. No sacrifice meant no prayer. And even the smallest offering was taxed with a fee. So the holy place had become a tool for enriching the high priests, not a place of prayer. To understand this better, let's compare the Jerusalem temple to a modern church. In our churches today, icons, candle stands, and prayer request tables are located outside the central prayer space, usually in the vestibule. This means people can light candles or submit names without disturbing the prayer in the main part of the church. Secondly, no one is forced to buy anything. You can simply walk in, stand before an icon and pray, free of charge. Even at divine liturgy, no one demands money for the wine, prosphora, or oil in the lamps. You can confess, take communion, and pray freely. Yes, there is a candle stand where you can donate, leave prayer requests, or buy icons. But all of this is voluntary giving, not obligation. No one forces you to buy candles or submit names. So the church candle stand is not a den of thieves. When someone donates or buys a candle, it's an act of personal devotion, a visible sign of love for God. The same goes for submitting names for prayer in churches and monasteries. Prayer is not for sale. You can always pray on your own, at home, in church, on the road, and God hears the sincere heart. But when we submit names, we are asking the church, the priests, deacons, singers, and the whole community to pray with us. That becomes communal prayer, which is stronger. And naturally, a donation often accompanies this, not as payment for grace, but as support for the spiritual work of the church. The priest reading those names needs to be able to serve. The monastery or church needs to function. There must be people who pray daily, and they need to survive too. This is not a price for God's mercy, but a contribution to a shared spiritual mission. In the Orthodox Church, no offering is ever mandatory. Everything, from candles to name slips, is a free gift, part of your spiritual participation. It's important to remember, a church doesn't run itself. It must be heated, lit, and cleaned. If we want a lamp to burn, someone must light it and buy the oil. If we want prayer to happen, someone must be able to offer it. Priests, deacons, and chanters are people too. They have families to support. If everything were free, the church could not survive. There would be no services, no prayers, no liturgy, because there would be no one to offer them. Let us not forget, we cannot offer the liturgy or confession without a priest. And the priest lives on the support of the parish. So we conclude, the church lives as long as we love it and support it. But the church never refuses prayer to someone who cannot donate. Few can give. It is your love for God and His house. Dear brothers and sisters, the temple in Jesus' time had become a place where worship was replaced by greed. Trade and forced purchases took the place of true devotion. When Christ overturned the tables and drove out the sellers, He restored the temple to its rightful role, a place of prayer and spiritual renewal. Today in our churches, we can pray freely and without cost. And our donations are simply voluntary offerings, our way of joining in the church's spiritual mission. We support the church so it can keep serving, but we must never feel like prayer is a product for sale. Our donations are an expression of love for God, not a price for His grace. May the Lord help us keep our hearts pure. And always remember, true piety is not what we can buy, but what we can freely give. With love and gratitude,